Hello and welcome back to Inquisitor Martyr. Last time we ran some Void Brethren missions. We're not going to do that again just because I'm low on keys, and if I'm not opening the boxes, then a big point of them is kind of lost. So instead, we're going to run... helps if I go to inventory. Go and run Intel. Dying fails mission. Okay, don't die. Do we want to run get Archaeotech or Psalm Code? Probably still need to get Psalm Code since I'm still missing the top tier. Yeah, at this point, just Void Shards and... You know what, we're actually going to not go for the gain high quality items. No, actually we'll do it because the XP gain just isn't worth it, really.
We have a tough nut to crack. Our forces are unable to launch an aerial strike on a bunker protected by counter-battery units. You take out the artillery pieces first, then mark the bunker for the expurgation, while I feed you the necessary data from orbit.
Yeah, I thought about the XP for a second, but in the end, just getting gear will help a bit more than XP. I tried upgrading the staff, and I could get biomancy boosts. I just couldn't get pyromancy boosts no matter how many times I ran it. And I was spending a lot of resources on it, so I just gave up. Hell, at this point I might run like a credit booster. Just because I need credits. That is a lot of fire. So, I was sitting here thinking, like, we've all seen the stuff for Cyberpunk, right? The anime that they had come out, Edge Runners. And I was thinking, what would everybody think if Warhammer had an anime? Because I know we got Warhammer Plus that I don't know a single soul who actually uses. And, I mean, that's really it. And while credit to the creators who are working with Games Workshop to make this stuff, it's not bad from what I've heard. It doesn't have mass appeal. Anime gets people in. Simple as that. You can easily pull people with anime as opposed to other forms of animation. And that had gotten me thinking, you know, what if we had a show? And I was sitting there thinking, what studio would I want behind it? And the one that came to mind for me was Studio Madhouse, which, if the name doesn't sound familiar, I don't blame you, but they did the Hellsing Ultimate OVAs, which were, in my opinion, really good. It's what the Team 4-Star used for the Hellsing Abridged videos they did. And Madhouse is really good, at least based off my knowledge of what they've done, and especially using Hellsing as the kind of the template. They really get extreme violence and blood down. Like, they're really good at depicting it, and it doesn't feel like really wonky, which for 40K, you know, 40K, extreme violence and blood go hand in hand in potentially tentacle or in other hand. And so I can see them doing a good job, but there's the question of what story would you tell? You know, do do kind of an anthology going over a bunch of stuff going on at once? Do you do like a little anthology about a world under siege? Do you just focus on one character? You know, is it a new character? Is it an old character? There's a lot of directions you can go. Personally, I do like the idea of an anthology. I would go like surrounding an event. You know, a certain battle, or like the fall of Cadia. You know, something big that has a lot of story behind it and a lot of stuff going on. Because then you can grab any character. Oh, this episode's their story. Oh, it's a guardsman. Well, at the end they die. Oh, they do this. This happens. This Space Marine does this. You can cover different viewpoints. Because just with the fall of Cadia, that would allow you to cover Chaos. You'd be able to cover Necrons to a degree, because I believe Trays in the Infinite ends up releasing some of his collection on the planet during the fall of Cadia. You know, you can cover Guardsmen, you can cover a fair amount, and it's a great intro to like the Black Crusade and everything that happened there. And within 40K lore, that's probably, within recent stuff, that's the best jumping off point. Then the question obviously becomes, would Games Workshop even go for that? And I don't know. I really don't know if Games Workshop has the wherewithal to look at it and be like, yeah, this would be a good idea, or if they'd be like, no, we need to keep doing our Warhammer Plus stuff. We can't have anything anywhere else. Even though I've said it a million times in episodes, Warhammer Plus is cool, but it's an incredibly stupid design because you're not really bringing in new people. You're just trying to further bleed your existing player base. And, you know, classic business, you need to keep expanding. Even if you think you're doing fine, you got enough people, you can always use more people. And I guess the other big thing too is, with Madhouse specifically, they're good at keeping a certain believable style. Like, they can do kind of the chibi, goofy moments, which they really don't even need to include if it's not an important thing. But then when they're not doing those moments, especially in Hellsing, the people look within the realm of anime like people. You know, you don't have some Shin-chan looking barely human blob. You know, it's pretty consistent. There's a good amount of detail while still remaining, like, simple enough. I think they could do some good. I just don't know who else I would really want behind it. Because, like, Trigger was behind Edge Runners, and they did a good job. And while I don't have a problem with, like, the character Rebecca, I'm also like, if you were to include a character like that in, you know, 40K, it really wouldn't fit, I think. I guess that's the big thing, is I don't know how much creative leeway Games Workshop would really allow. Because I just have a feeling, from what I've seen, they're not the most, I guess, open. I mean, they're not Disney tier. Like how they were with Star Wars, where Disney's just like, nah, anything that wasn't the movies didn't happen, we don't care. And then they've come crawling back to Expanded Universe because they realized, oh, 30 years of people making stuff might have a few good things inside. And to that degree, you know, Warhammer and Games Workshop, they don't have to allow Expanded Universe levels of freedom of creation. And that's fine, you know, that degree is pretty extreme. But I think they can allow some stuff.
Objective completed. Great work down there. Is it heresy to think that these hostiles were a bit out of your league?
Not a good haul, honestly. Kinda bad, but we can always hope for the best on the next run. That heat resist is gonna suck.
Several warp rifts are active in the area. Don't stay in that cesspit any longer than necessary, Inquisitor.
This warp heat, or this heat resistance, this was... I mean, I'm able to work through it, but not happy. Losing almost half my damage. Yeah, I have to keep finding those rogue servo skulls. Because they drop keys. Okay, I was about to say, is this a kill dudes or kill demon gates? I answered my own question.
We are still detecting signs of demonic presence. Go to the next rift.
Hope I can find a teleporter. I need more loot, honestly. Now that I discovered that those are, you know, actually something you can use and they aren't all just normal teleporters further into the mission, now it's like, hope one spawns. It's kind of cool though that there's stuff, even to now I'm kind of learning about this game. And maybe it's because I'm just not super aware of things, but still cool. I felt like when all was said and done, I had learned everything there was to learn about Diablo pretty quick. And while that was fine, it is a little disappointing because now when I look back, there are times I'll look at the install for Diablo 3, I'm like, maybe I should fire it up again. And then I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? You know, I platinumed the game. I don't really have any challenges. What do I do with seasonal stuff? The seasonal stuff wasn't that engrossing or that deep when you really look at it. At least in this, they're like, hey, we're adding new items and enemies. We ought to be getting, like, the full update soon, because that Ultimate Edition's coming out, I don't know, soon. By the time this video comes out, maybe I think it should be out. Either way, it should be coming. And that should change things. Because I think Season 4 adds the Death Shroud Terminators. And that would be cool. But all this stuff does kind of worry me. Because let's say... Because once again, we still don't know anything, as of this recording, about the Sororitas DLC. We have not heard a thing. The last I heard was they had to submit some stuff to Games Workshop to get the okay, which first off made me scream, really? You're waiting till now to get some stuff okayed? You should have had that done, like, months ago. You should have had your outlines and everything presentable to get it cleared instead of waiting till the last minute. But, you know, that happens. But then it's like, well, what are they going to do? Are they going to add a new faction? Realistically, everyone outside Nurgle is kind of bare bones. Like, we don't have Tzeentch, straight up. We don't have Slaanesh. We don't have... I mean, we have Khorne, but it's... What do we have that's Khorne related? We have the... what is it? We have the Bloodthirsters. We have the Skulltaker. We have the Fleshhounds. And we have the robot machine. I can't remember the name. Like I've said before, Khorne just... Every name is blood something, slaughter something. Everything just blurs together. It's red, it's angry, it's got a skull on it. So to me, they're all interchangeable. But that's all. I know they have more. I genuinely know they have more units and more options. So as a result, we're kind of just stuck going, oh, can we get a little more stuff here? But with adding, like, the Death Shroud Terminators and all this, it just puts the, like, Death Guard and Nurgle further and further ahead of any new faction coming in, and they're either going to have to... We're going to have to wait and have them play catch-up, or they're going to have to just dump a ton on us at once. Hey, we actually got something that wasn't just orange. I have no faith in it, but... What? What? How? Because that's kind of cool. I feel like that's bugged, because I shouldn't have two uniques like that. Very strange.
web of heresy and corruption is spun by powerful beings and perverted minds. Hunt their leaders, and this construct of evil will come crashing down.
I always love when Caius Thorin says, "This construct of evil." Like, that's such a weird way of describing the enemies and their operation, but sure, I guess. Gotta say, the one nice thing about running intel missions, unlike running just a Void Crusade, is every time I can fight something different. Not like Void Crusades where they have a preset thing of, oh, this is Eldar and this is, you know, X and Y. I hope you enjoy fighting these enemies because that is all you will fight. I'll admit, I should do Ordos missions more. I do hate that they're on a timer. I think for this game it's stupid because it makes it so if you're playing a seasonal character, you need to play every week just to get your 3 missions in. And I think it's a little unfair. If I want to sit down and just bang out a ton of Ordo missions until I reach the max rank, I say let me. You know, I don't see a problem with it. Oh wow, things become cheaper and more stuff shows up in my shop. I still have to get the credits to buy stuff. You know, the rollovers still happen. I definitely think the game could do with some changes that are a bit more player friendly. You know, this isn't an MMO. This isn't some free-to-play game where you need constant logins. You know, drop that kind of stuff. It's not a good design. You know, you're an ARPG. Let people play at the pace they want to play. Don't try to dictate how things are gonna go, because I think it's a bit absurd and unnecessary. You know, I think being a little more player-friendly is not going to hurt the studio, not going to hurt the game. In the long run, it'll probably make more people happy than not. I just don't like having to, like, sit here, do 3 missions, and go, oh, well, see you next week, Ordos. Because the problem there is you can boost the amount you gain using certain cards, but so you have to use certain, I think it's rep boosters for Uther's Tarot to do the missions to the best of their capabilities, and if you're looking to min-max. And I get the argument can be made, well, just don't min-max, but with how the stuff is weekly and all that, the game essentially tells you you have to min-max. And that's my gripe, you know. You want to introduce, like, weekly challenges? Yeah, sure, whatever, I don't care. That's fine. Those are optional. But weekly missions that have a far greater tangible thing, I'm not as big on. Because it's just time gating. I dealt with that with Destiny for a long time. I remember, I want to say it was Sleeper Simulant. The only way you could actually get it was you had to do a quest that only happened on, like, the 7th of every month or something. It was some stupid stuff. And I remember the community despised it, rightfully so. I get it when it's like, it's your thing. I don't care. there are ways studios can kind of have their own little Easter eggy, hey, this is our thing, wink wink. Time gating content is not one of them. That, to me, says the people in charge do not play the game and do not care. Because anyone with half a functioning brainstem would look at that and go, well, this sucks. You know, I got nothing to do. Or something I want or something I want to do is now gated from me. And especially when it comes to the Ordos, that's... One of them is, I think, Eldar and Tyranids. You gain... Eldar, Dark Eldar, Tyranids, you gain like a 10% damage boost against them. So it's not a negligible thing. That's a healthy amount of damage you are getting boosted. So you kind of feel you have to push that. And that, I think Ordo Malleus gives you, like, demons. Bonus against demons. And there's one against guardsmen. These are all big bonuses that I feel players should be able to work towards at their own pace, as opposed to you have to play on the dev schedule. That's such a... I don't want to say gross, because that's not the proper way of describing it. I think it's an inconsiderate way of designing the game. I think there are better options, and considering it already has, you know, scaling missions, you could do what they do with this season. You know, you get keys. Oh, you found... They could essentially be intel missions for an Ordo. You know, simple as that. Oh, they're higher difficulty. You get the rep. The more you play, the more you're gonna find of these. You know, simple as that. You have a higher chance of finding the corresponding Ordo when fighting the right factions. So, you know, Ordo Malleus, let's say it's Chaos Demons, as you get the damage bonus for them. You would have a higher chance of finding missions pertaining to Ordo Malleus in missions where Chaos Demons are, as opposed to fighting Tyranids. It keeps things thematic, it makes sense, and it doesn't leave gaps in playtime where players aren't really willing to play. But that's just me. I just try to make games that are the most, I guess, accessible to players, but not accessible in the common sense, but more of they're player friendly. I mean, I don't like battle passes. I think they're a really stupid roundabout way of getting money out of people. You know, people sit here, great example, Call of Duty. People sit here, oh, well, we don't have to pay for map packs. Okay, cool. Map packs cost you, what, $15 a map pack. They do 3 to 4, maybe an extra $60. Let's say you play all 4 seasons for Call of Duty. Okay, you buy the Battle Pass. $40 for all 4. Okay, do you buy any skins? Well, your cheapest packs are like $5 to $10. If you buy 2 or you buy one Mastercraft, I think is like $25, $30. Okay, boom, you spent, if you bought one Mastercraft, $25, let's say. With the season passes, or the battle passes, you spent $65. You've already overpaid compared to what you used to. You see this with free-to-play. Free-to-play has become... Free-to-play is a good way of getting people in, but it is 9 times out of 10 very heavy-handed in monetization. And as a result, a lot of these games die, or they suck. Prime example I'll always use, is... what is it? The Old Republic. Where there's so many gates on different things. You can't equip, like, rare items, I think it was. You can't play certain content unless you pay their subscription. You know, it gets to a point where they're twisting your arm so far that you effectively can't play the full game without paying anyways. So you might as well have just kept with the paid model. And that's kind of the curse we're seeing here. It's not healthy for games. I think there are games that can do it. You know, Warframe's a good example. Even then, I don't like the fact you have to pay for gear slots. But with the Nightwave stuff, they got more generous and are willing to give you slots for free. Not to mention the annual... Every year in, like, March, I know for PlayStation, I think it is a celebration of, like, hey, it's the game's anniversary, so here's a bunch of free stuff. And they give you... now you have to do a mission for it, which isn't that bad. But it's like, one mission will give you the Dex Dakra. Okay, well, it comes with a slot. Mulch the weapon, you get a free slot. Oh, here's the Dex Cyberus. Comes with the slot. Mulch the weapon, free slot. Here's the Dex Furus. Once again, mulch the weapon, use the slot. So every year you're guaranteed 3. Is that great? No, they come out with a ton of weapons. But usually you can get away with making whatever weapon and dumping it anyways. Games like Dust 514. Their monetization was weird. I'll get into it when we jump into the next mission, because that's a whole song and dance to go over. Yeah, we're just gonna mulch that. I don't trust it. I think it's glitched. Crap. Alright. Last intel run for now.
Electrospectral scanning revealed multiple entry nodes to the mnemonic network. Locate cogitator stations to gain access. May the Omnisire guide your hand.
Okay, so Dust's monetization. It's the weirdest damn monetization system I've ever seen. Not the worst. The worst definitely falls on either Elder Scrolls Online or the Old Republic, but it was the weirdest. Because the game had your gear as temporary, and every death took away whatever was in your loadout, what would happen was they were selling gear to players. So there were 4 tiers of weapons. There was Militia, Standard, Advanced, and Prototype. Within that, there's different degrees, essentially like different levels within it. It's a whole tiered system. But what would happen is the premium gear, the Aurum weapons, would cost you, it was like a couple cents or 25 cents a weapon. So you'd have those, but every weapon had skill requirements. So you needed, advanced assault rifles to use advanced assault rifles. You needed the advanced assault rifle skill. What they would do is they'd say, okay, here's an Aurum advanced assault rifle, but you only need the standard assault rifle skill. So you would get a tier up weapon with roughly the same stat line as your standard, or I guess I can't say standard because that's not the right word here, as a normal advanced weapon. So your big bonus was kind of temporarily getting to skip like skill costs, which obviously kind of a weird system because, you know, gear is temporary. And this applied to everything. You could have Aurum grenades, you could have an Aurum drop suit, you could have a pistol, an assault rifle. You could, if you really wanted to, spend a couple dollars per loadout. If you wanted to have drop suit, primary, secondary, any shield or armor modules, grenades, if you have a revive tool or a nano hive, which was like a resupply tool, anything like that, those all would end up costing you money. Of course, none of it was exclusive, you know. The gear was exclusive. Like, if there was a, I don't know, big Schmeat LMG that was Aurum, you couldn't pay for it any other way. But you could find other LMGs that were on par. It was just whether or not you were willing to pay for them. It was definitely a strange system. I remember playing it and looking at it, I'm like, I'm not spending money on temporary gear, that's insane. Even though you could make the argument that by spending and having better gear than your opponent, your survivability goes up and you could potentially die less, get more kills, and then by extension have it worth more, which is true.
Accessing hostile network. Data
But
siphon protocols
you're still spending money.
Warning, enemy response teams nearby. Prepare for contact.
It avoided the accusation of being pay to win pretty easily. It was just still weird. They eventually started shifting to what I could tell to actual cosmetics, but it wasn't fast enough towards the end of the game, which is sad. I know the free-to-play side of Eve, now they're doing more skin stuff, but they've done some weird stuff recently of like selling ships, which I don't agree with. They'll be like, oh, do you want to mine? Well, here's a fully kitted out mining ship. And I'm like, what? Why? Yeah, it's like $25, and you really, if you're smart enough, you shouldn't be buying those. Like, you can run missions, you can rat, you can literally do anything to make the ISK for a ship instead of just busting out the credit card. But all in all, that's such a strange concept because it breaks the mine, build, destroy ecosystem the game has fostered for almost 20 years. Actually, I think it is 20 years at this point. But it's very peculiar. And I think it's to try to get, like, new players in, because it's like, oh, well, people don't want to wait all this time to get, you know, the skills for these ships and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I don't think this is the right method. I know people were mad that they're selling skill injectors and all this stuff. I'm like, I think that's probably the better option. I would honestly probably just reprice skill books, because you'd have to actually get a skill book and then you would select like a training queue, and it would just take time. You know, oh, I want to learn Kaldari battleships level 5. Okay, this will take you 3 days. Come back in 3 days, you'll have the skill done. Doesn't matter if you play, doesn't matter if you don't. It'll get done. I think, realistically, the best option in my eyes for that game would have been to say, hey, you still have the time gate, but what you can do is speed it up. Not by paying, but by playing. For instance, Caldari battleships. Okay, you're wanting to hit tier 5. Well, you don't need tier 5 to use your basic Caldari battleships. What you can do is pilot one, and while you get kills in it, or while you do mining, if you're weird and decide to mine in a battleship, don't do that. But whatever you do, as long as you're using the ship, and you're not just like AFK, you gain a little bit of XP, and that feeds into the timer and gets done. This way, it rewards players for playing. It provides a system where if you just straight up don't want to play, or you're like, oh, I'm out of town for the week, I'm going on vacation, I'm going to Tahiti, you can pick a skill that's going to take a while, fire it up, and be like, yep, that's going to get done when I get back home. Cool. Or if you really want to bull rush through a skill, you can do it. Yo, this texture's bugging. That's weird. But yeah, sorry if that bored some of you. I know not everybody cares about EVE. I like sci-fi in all its forms, and having been a Dust player, I've always had a soft spot for EVE. And like I always say, I want games to be better, because games that are better help us and make us have a better time. But yeah. Also, I do apologize if me talking about monetization is a very boring thing. I go on to tangents. You know how I am. And I think it's an important thing to discuss because it has an effect on everyone's experience.
Point of entry established. Harvesting data from compromised network. Warning. Hostile units inbound.
Random thing. It is really nice that they don't keep playing the, alert sound while you're hacking this. I've encountered way too many games that are like, oh, the alarm's gone off. We have to keep it playing for immersion. I'm like, no, you don't. You got the red flashing lights, you got guys spawning. I don't need to hear the same horn playing for the next 15 minutes. We understand the situation. My immersion can be broken. It's fine. Which, speaking of immersion, that reminds me, I've been playing Stalker Anomaly, which, if you saw the Operator Drewski video, how he shined light on that game, that mod, and effectively crashed ModDB because so many people were trying to get it at once. But it's a mod for the Stalker, Call of Chernobyl, or Shadow Chernobyl, Call of Pripyat, and Clear Sky games. But it's the Stalker Anomaly game, which is all three combined. How it's legal, it's a very weird bit of... The company collapsed, so the rights were kind of weird, and then the studio reformed to make the new game, and I think they just either don't have legal recourse, or they don't care enough because this brings in enough people and is essentially advertising for a game, for their new game, so they're like, okay, we'll begrudgingly allow it. But the mod, Gamma Mod, it's this big mod pack, 333 mods. Took forever to download, took multiple attempts because ModDB kept just imploding on itself. And the med system, the medical system in there, I want to find who made it and slap them. Because somebody who made the med system was like, we need to make this more convoluted. It's like, no, you don't. Brevity is a sign of wit. Making a convoluted system just means you're either a sadist or a douche. And whoever made this, I'm leaning in the douche category. Because you get hurt, you have your limb damage that they add and all that. What you have to do is then sit down, use a med kit, but it's only temporary healing. You then have to have it's like a yellow heart, and then you have to find gear items with a white heart indicator, which then is permanent healing. But then on top of that, you have to check the item, because certain items only heal certain body parts. So you may need to heal your torso and use an item that does permanent healing, like aftercare is what they consider it, but it doesn't heal your torso, it only heals arms and legs. So you wasted the item. So you have to have a different item on hand to do the proper healing, or you have to pay an NPC medic to heal you.
In Inquisitorial custody. Praise the Omniscire.
And then different items they can heal the same parts but have different degrees of how much they heal. It is the dumbest and most convoluted system I have seen for healing. I sit there, I get hurt, and I'm not like, oh no, I need to use a medkit. I'm just sitting here groaning, going, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. And I don't know where the mod is, because if you search like medical within the mod loader, they don't have anything. Health doesn't have anything. It's mixed in with something else, and I don't know where it is, so I can't just disable it, which is what I would like to do, because it is just stupidly punishing for no reason. And it's unfortunate, because the rest of the mod is fantastic. There's so much to it, but I'm just dragging myself through it. Even the gun maintenance stuff is annoying, because it's like, oh, this barrel is broken, so you gotta find a replacement barrel. Which is, on one hand, kinda cool, until you can't find a replacement barrel because no vendor has one. And then you have to just nut up and pay 15 grand to get your weapon repaired fully. It's inconvenient. And currently my playthrough, I'm trapped because I can't really leave because there's guys at the exits who are armed, and I have a revolver with 4 rounds, and the revolver breaks every trigger pull, so I can't even reliably fire, because half the time I will pull the trigger and the hammer breaks, so I have to pull the trigger back again, or pull the hammer back again, and hope it works the second time. It's pain. It is absolute, just inexcusable amounts of pain. I might be able to pay and get my way to the next area, but I don't know if that's even a good option because I don't know if there's a vendor. So I've been running around with just a knife, trying to fight off enemies. Just looting anomalies, trying to get enough money to, I don't know, hopefully buy stuff. Hey, Somco, that's what I was hoping to see. Okay. We'll just quick run through everything. No. Don't really need it. Don't really need it. A lot of this stuff just isn't worth using, honestly. Alright, so that is all for now. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the like button. It helps out the channel a lot. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.